So I've had the supermoto set up on for quite a while, put a lot of miles on it, and I'm really enjoying it, but I want to protect the axles. So I got some axle sliders from Home Depot. That's right, Home Depot and Amazon if we're going to be technical, but 99% of this hardware is from Home Depot, and all told I spent $9 there. I also spent another $9 on these wheels from Amazon, just, kind of cheapo, generic, no names. So all told, this is an $18 axle slider kit. And basically what we're going to do is the old skateboard trick mod. Basically, you can do this with any supermoto or any bike really with hollow axles that you can slide these through. We have two sets of threaded rod, and we have bolts and fender washers to match. I also have this. I actually had this piece laying around, this aluminum tube, so I cut a few pieces off here just to make little spacers. And that's simply because I couldn't find the correct spacers at Home Depot that would fit this thread. And so basically with a series of bolts, washers, and skateboard wheels, we're going to put these on in a specific order for front and rear and get these basically just lined up, and then mark both of these threaded rods to cut them at specific lengths so that it matches the width of the axle. So axle sliders are pretty much just to protect your axles and your axle nuts from any contact with the road, gravel, anything like that that would damage it in such a way that you're unable to take it off again. Basically just putting a little bit of a barrier between that piece of hardware on the bike and the road, more or less. And so this is a really cheap way of getting around that. I mean, some of the more specific axle sliders that you can get for these bikes or others, cost upwards of $80, $100. And so this is always a very cheap option. This is one that I did with the DRZ, and it works just fine. It's perfect. It's nice and cheap. You can easily replace this equipment. If you were to go down and damage it, you'd be damaging this stuff and not the bike. And the axles and the bike parts are a lot more expensive than these. That's for sure. We're actually going to do this a little bit differently too from at least my previous setup, because these skateboard wheels, I didn't realize it when I bought them, but these ones actually have the bearings already pushed in, which is really cool. Actually, I'll show you my old setup here. This is off of the old DRZ, and this one, these wheels did not come with bearings when I bought them. So basically what I did with these was on the inside, I dremeled out. You can see some of these are a little bit wider than say this one, which is standard, but some of these were dremeled out, so this kind of fits over the nut or over the axle, and so kind of sandwiches it in there. But in this case, with the bearings, I thought, you know what, let's kind of take advantage of the fact that we have these already pressed in, and so that's the reason for these spacers. Is this is going to be in between the fender washer and the skateboard wheel, so that theoretically these will be free spinning. It's not going to matter one way or the other if this is pressed onto the axle nut and it's not going to move, or if it's free spinning. All told, this is going to get damaged if it gets slid on. But I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to take advantage of the fact that we had these come in with bearings already in. I don't have to Dremel anything. I don't have to, kind of fit each one specifically to a corner of the bike on each wheel. So this is just going to make it that much easier for me. So this is what I'm talking about, and basically we're just going to have a bolt, skateboard wheel, and then two sets of washers here. This will all be sandwiched together on one side, and then we'll have the mirror image on the other. Now, obviously, these pieces are quite long. The axles are definitely not that long. We'll have to trim these down. So the easiest way to do that is simply put it on the bike. And so we're going to get this all together, slide the axle through, put the rest of the hardware on the other side, get it as tight to where we want it, and then we'll mark off exactly where it is on the thread that we need cut for both the front and the rear, because I think they are a little bit different. I believe the rear is a bit wider. We'll make sure that we get that cut trimmed up to the exact length that we need for both sides, and then we'll be done. Easy as that. Just like that. So we made a little mark right here to take into account enough threads for the bolt. I don't want to put the bolt all the way on this because it is a nylon lock washer, and so that's going to be quite an effort to thread that all the way up. But I took a measurement of how it looks on the other side with it flush or just a little over flush, and made the same measurements on this side and marked it. So I have it marked here and over here. Also point out here, on this particular side, I made the washer just a little bit longer. I guess that was the advantage of having that aluminum tube rather than actually measured out and specifically spaced aluminum spacers. So this one needed to come out just a little bit because it was kind of butting up against the bottom of the shock here. And if I wanted it as flush to this as possible, it would be pushed forward in such a way that it wouldn't quite line up the axle. The threaded rod rather in here would be a little bit kinked forward. So just to alleviate that, make it a little bit easier, and also to make sure this is still free spinning, not that it matters, but I made a spacer right here that's just a little bit longer than all of the other ones. The other ones, like this one, are pretty much just right up flush to the fender washer. So I put the fender washer in here to make sure that the spacers had something to push up against. And just given the flat washer, it has a big flat space because some of them, while like on this side, it does have a nut, and so it would easily push up against the axle pretty easily. The other sides are a lot larger. So this one is a very, very large opening. And so we just want to make sure that we have that covered. So I just kind of went around the whole thing and gave it 1-inch fender washer spacers. So that's pretty much the setup. So we're just gonna pull all this off, cut it, and put it back on. And then we're done. Done. That was super easy. Now let's go test it. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna test this. This is for protection purposes only. It's one of those things you hope you never have to use, but we'll be thankful if something were to occur that they're there. So, real short one today, but thanks for watching.